Hello and welcome to Scott Rock.
Where your hosts from Climb Scotland, Robert Mackenzie,
and me, Callum McBain, catch up with climbers every 2 weeks who have different epic tales to tell us.
We hope you enjoy the show.
And remember, when you're out climbing, be safe and do your buddy checks.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Scott Rock. Today we are sitting down with another hillwalker. I know this is a climbing podcast and we've had two hillwalkers in a row, but then again, variety is the spice of life. But before we dive into it, there's something that I feel like we should mention. Something that has gone by the wayside, an event that has passed without its proper recognition. Scott Rock passed its first birthday at the end of last month. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Scott Rock. You are now a year old. This is episode 24. We're, I think, a week behind getting one every 2 weeks, which is awesome. Thank you to everyone that has been on the show so far. Thank you to all of our guests. You guys have been amazing. We have now hit over 7,000 downloads in that year from all over the world. So thank you to all of our guests. Thank you to all of our listeners as well for keeping up with us. If you've got feedback for us after our year, let us know what you think. Let us know how you think we've done. Has this been enjoyable? Do we need to change anything? Or should we just wrap it up there and you're sick of listening to my voice? That's not going to happen, by the way. I love the sound of my own voice. You're not getting rid of me that easy. So, yeah, happy birthday, Scott Rock. But let's get back to it. Today, we are sitting down with a gentleman called Dan Arnold. He is a hill walker, a little bit of a mountaineer from the Highlands of Scotland. And what's really cool is I had never heard of Dan before. I'd never met him before, even though he gets out there a lot. But he contacted me and asked to be on the show, which is awesome. He self-referred himself for the podcast, and I was really hoping that we were going to get to the stage where people would refer themselves and want to be on this thing. So it's awesome that I think we've got to that stage. So yeah, we're going to sit down with Dan and have a chat about hill walking and his transition into a bit of climbing, which is definitely very, very different from most people's transition into climbing. If you want to be on the show, you know, we're at that stage now where you can refer yourself. So if you want to be on the show, if you think you've got a story to tell, get in contact. Give us a shout on the Facebook or send us an email, and we'll more than happily have a sit down with you. But yeah, let's grab a cup of tea, sit down, and enjoy the chat with Dan. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Monroe's thing and your new challenge, but one question I really want to ask is, where are you preferring walking up, Graham's and Corbett's or doing the Monroe's?
Tough one already. Gee whiz.
Oh yeah.
I think the variety, I'm glad I did the Monroe's when I did them.
Yeah.
Because I think now it's gone like super busy. Like I was in Glencoe last weekend, and there must have been 400 or 500 people at the Buchel, like the wee Buchel. It was like, I was amazed by it, and I was like, this has gone really kind of big. So I'm really glad that I did the Monroe's when I did them, and being where I live in Newton Moor, it's like so handy to get anywhere. So I don't need to plan. I can be quite spontaneous. But the Trigs, so anything with a trig point over 2,000 feet, the variety, it like takes you to the islands, it takes you to some pretty peculiar places. So it's quite interesting in that sense. And I've focused mainly on the Corbett's because I like exploring. So the Monroe's, I kind of had a challenge to myself with redoing the Monroe's so there's about 60 trig points on the Monroe's. So I have to do them in a different way than I did the first time.
Go up a different route.
Route, or different season, or sleep on the top of it, or I don't know, like whatever I choose. But I have to
handstand up it.
Like cartwheel. So yeah, that's my kind of hope that I can get a bit more variety.
Cool. Because I've I've done a lot of Monroes and I've done a lot of Corbetts. I've probably not done too many Grahams actually, but I've done a lot of Corbetts, and I've always enjoyed some of the Corbetts way more than the Monroes. And it's the one thing I can't quite grasp about doing all the Monroes is, I mean, yes, you're doing it for the tick of doing all the Monroes, but some of them are god awful boring. God, I grew up in Dingwall, so right next to Ben Wyvis. That is the most boring hill I've ever walked up. It was grim. But like then you get short hills like Stackpolly and stuff. They're just amazing little things. They're great. I have so much more fun on some of the smaller ones. So I don't know if I'm ever going to get to the point where I'm ticking all the Monroes.
It creeps up on you.
Yeah.
And I think like with me, it was a slow start, but then it just like mothballed into like total addiction. So
here's your chance. Like, if you do a little brief introduction for yourself. Obviously, we've already gone over that you are a hill walker, very keen hill walker. But like, where did that come from? Like, was this something that you've always kind of done, and it kind of just it grew, or was it? Were you not a hill walker before, and it's something you discovered?
Okay, so I lived in Lagan. I was brought up in Lagan.
Right.
Never went. I was always outdoorsy. I went away to school, so I went to Gunston.
Oh, nice.
And they've got quite an outdoor curriculum and stuff.
Very outdoor curriculum.
I was in mountain rescue, kind of in inverted commas. So I used to do SADA, like volunteer, and I suppose I always enjoyed the challenge of it. Maybe didn't totally enjoy all of it. And then, so that was it's always been there. And then Lancaster, I went to uni in Lancaster and tried to get out to Lake District, but wasn't too outdoorsy at uni. I was more focused on the social aspects of university life.
Of course. I was exactly the same.
So I kind of look back at that and think, I should have done more in the lakes. But, and from there, I was like, I went to New Zealand, and that's what really sparked this kind of thing off. I went to New Zealand and I was hut warden for 3 months,
right,
in the national park. So that involved like a week in the huts, and then 2 days out, and then a week in another hut, 2 days out, and that was 3 months of that. So I got really fit quite quickly, and then realised being self-sufficient. From that, kind of went down to the South Island and did a lot more kind of rural backpacking. And that was just, it was awesome. It was kind of like a gap year in that sense, but I was working as well. But I got into some pretty cool places. So came back to Scotland with a bang, and was thinking one day, I'm going to do Craig Meggie. So I did that, and then off the back of that, it was kind of, I can do the ones nearby. And it was never like, I didn't really understand what the Munros were at that point. It was 6-7 years ago easily. And then as I kind of moved around, I started meeting people, and then it just 60 Munros a year. It was like, finished. And then now it's up to where I am now. It's it's really good. I've started doing the winter stuff more. Which is obviously why I contacted yourself, just because obviously this winter being a bit different, I've had the ability to kind of learn myself. And coming at it from a total kind of non-climbing background to doing winter mountaineering, I think I missed a stage. But I don't really want to look at that stage. So it's like,
that's all right. I'm going to be asking you about this missing stage later on for sure. So that's really interesting. You had a little bit of an introduction to it when you were younger here, but your proper the time you properly got into it was in New Zealand, which is just like Scotland on steroids.
Oh, for sure.
How did you find it coming from the big, amazing hills of New Zealand? And how out there that place is, coming back here and doing hills here. Did you find like they weren't quite the same, time, or
interesting.
was it a different kind of enjoyment?
Yeah, I didn't do any like major peaks in New Zealand. Like part of my 5-year plan is to go back and do one of the mountains that I kind of looked at from about 1,000 meters, looking up, and it's about a 3,000 meter peak.
Oof, nice.
So that's my kind of long-term plan. But yeah, it wasn't like a down step because I realised I hadn't done a lot of travelling in Scotland at that point. I'd kind of been to the Cairngorms and I'd done a bit in the west, but nothing major. So it was like, Scotland's just as good. It's just you got to pick the right time, the right place, and you get just as good scenery, if not better.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't like a come down almost. It was just it's nice exploring your back garden as well. Like I think Scotland, being where I've been, there's so many good places to explore. So, but yeah, New Zealand, I've got there. I want to go back and do some stuff there for sure. Now that I've got a few more skills in my arsenal. So a lot of the hills in New Zealand are they're multi-day. Yeah, it's like alpine.
You know,
it's like
proper alpine stuff.
Yeah.
And like that's one thing that I've always really appreciated about the hills in Scotland is they're big. They're big days, but you can do them all kind of in a day trip. You can all hit them in a day, and I find it makes it so much more accessible. It's a lot easier to do. It's a lot easier for people to get into. But you can have just as cool an experience, for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, a good friend of mine said, like when you go to the Alps and when you go to New Zealand, you look out and it's just mountains. But like the Scottish hills are almost like individuals. Like you can make them out.
Yeah.
Whereas they're not kind of big ranges and such. They do have ranges, but yeah, that's definitely an attraction, I think, for Scottish hill walking.
Oh, for sure. So what is it about the hill walking that kind of grabbed you then? Because obviously, like there was something that grabbed you about New Zealand that has stuck with you when you came here, even though they're vastly different hills. So what is it about it that grabbed you?
Originally, it was like photography.
Cool.
And I enjoyed doing the photography side of it. I mean, I'm not a photographer.
Yeah.
I just enjoy taking pictures. And I suppose, it was a good way of getting out and seeing a bit of the country. And I suppose it just creeps up on you. And the challenge, I originally started out and I was doing it solo.
Right.
So like I didn't have many people around me, friend group wise, that were doing it.
Yeah.
But then, as I said earlier, it's like I met a couple of guys on a hill day in Bitten, and that was like a unofficial walking club. It was just a Facebook group, but off the social side of that, I kind of met a load of people.
Yeah.
And then you kind of almost meet up and do hills together that we hadn't done, both of us haven't done. Yeah. And then you'll do ones again. So it's a really sociable aspect of it as well.
Yeah, the Facebook groups are great for that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's definitely taken a little bit away from the traditional club model, but they're so good. And the amount of people that are managing to get outdoors and meet people like yourself, through these Facebook groups and meet up and stuff like that, it's really good. Oh, yeah,
100%. I mean, I got that feeling when I was on the Glencoe Hills a couple of weeks ago, and it just the age groups. Whereas like maybe 5-6 years ago, you're seeing a lot more kind of plus 40s.
Yeah.
Now it's like my age group, maybe younger, even like 20s, and it's really good in that sense.
It's definitely becoming less of the old man with white beards sport.
100%, but like equally, I've had some great days out just meeting people, and you meet all sorts. It's great.
It's great, isn't it? Like, do you find that you have better days in the hill when it is that a bit more of a sociable day? Whether you've gone out with someone or whether you meet someone out on the hill or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I choose. Like, that's the beauty of it as well. Like, if you think, this is only going to interest me, or I tend to wild camp on my own to get that feeling of kind of total isolation. And then some of the hills, you choose to do on your own. But equally, a lot of it is a social aspect. You meet up with your mates, have a chat, and then put the world's wrongs to rights. And then totally. If you can have a beer at the end of it, all the better. Yeah. But obviously, with the times we're in, changes in socialization and that sense.
That makes that hard. Doesn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. So it's not been so much of a sociable thing recently, but I think pretty much.
Yeah, I always have a much better day when I've just chatted to everybody that I walk past on the hill. I've just had some of the best conversations with randomers on top of hills.
Yeah.
And it's always nice, like, you know, if I come across someone on a hill, I'll take a photo of them, you know, while they're out doing whatever. And it's always nice to kind of keep that contact afterwards as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, you can go out on your own for a solitary hill walk and end up having the most social day of your life.
I mean, exactly. I've met some people I classify as very, very good friends, you know, out in the hills, and we've kept in touch, you know, and done maybe over 100 Monroes together.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
It's great.
That's cool. Have you got any favourites? Like, what's your favourite? Let's go. What's your favourite hill?
Yeah.
What's your favourite Monroe?
Okay. Favourite Monroe, easily Blavin.
Oh yes, good choice.
Yeah. So
good choice.
Actually, last year, so I'd done it once with my wife.
Yeah.
And we had actually, it's the day that Finley Wild did the Coolin Ridge in less than 3 hours.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah. So it was like perfect October day. Like it was pristine.
Yeah.
And we did it that day. Looking at the Coolins, and obviously then I realised Finley Wild had done all the Coolins in 3 hours, and I was like, and at that point I don't think I'd done any of the Coolin, so it was like, it was pretty epic.
Did you walk up the path?
Yeah, just did so coming on to that.
There we go.
So I did it and then when I redid it for the Trig Point round,
of course,
I met up, and it was my first ever guided day.
Yeah.
So at that point, obviously, people couldn't move around as much, and I got in touch, and there was another October day, and it was perfect.
Yeah,
perfect weather. So we did the Clackalas,
nice.
And I'd always wanted to do that route. It's like my kind of bucket list route in Scotland. So it was amazing.
It is absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, there's a bit of everything, and as you know, it's pretty, for someone who doesn't climb. There's a bit of like, okay, that's pretty serious. But having a guide kind of took the exposure away from it. It was
for sure.
For someone who's like me, who's not used to exposure, I was like, he's like, oh, go left just there. And I was like, okay, cool. And then you kind of realise it's not as bad as it might look.
Yeah, but having someone to kind of watch your back allows you to just relax and enjoy where you are a little bit more.
But I mean, awesome route. And since then, I've kind of, wanted to get a bit more kind of experience in the scrambling side of things.
Yeah.
And then, Monroe was, I suppose, Blavin. And then, I mean, Corbett, gee whiz.
Ooh, it's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, I'm trying to think, Corbett-wise, I've got a real affinity with, like, Noidart. So there's, like, Ben Vui, which is one of the Corbett's in Noidart, but it's, like, huge anyway. It's a huge day out. That's awesome. Rosven, which is kind of Arsig.
Right.
So all those kind of, and you get amazing views out to Skye, but also kind of to the big Monroes.
Yeah.
Rum again. Ascaval.
To Rum. Never made it out there.
Yeah, that's worth doing for sure. It's pretty epic. One of those ones I'd say kind of West Coast, maybe a bit lower than the Monroes.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's one of the beautiful things about Noidart is some of the hills in there are definitely a push to do it in a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely the Exped kind of territory part of Scotland for sure, and it just makes it feel like that much more out there.
Yeah, for sure.
We've heard that Cairngorms is the connoisseurs mountain because you walk up over the back anywhere and you feel like you're totally out there. You can't see or hear any of civilization. And it feels much more expedy and properly wild. And Noidart is like that on steroids. It's just really big.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, out of all the places that you could say look a bit like New Zealand, I'd say like Noidart and whatnot. It's like you got those long fjord like lochs and big kind of jagged peaks. And camped on Louis Ven.
Nice.
And got an amazing sunrise. It was one of those epic kind of really hot weeks.
Yeah.
Totally underestimated it. And yeah, I walked in from Kinlochern and then did those two kind of, and then back out.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was an amazing kind of trip, that one. And then yeah, Larvin I did from Inverie and did it as a big traverse in winter, like semi-winter conditions, which scared me quite a lot, but it was good fun. It's one of those, and that I mean, like, so I'd done like by the end of the Manrose, I'd done maybe 20 or 30 in winter, but all kind of no kind of mountaineering in that sense. So yeah, I was always keen to kind of maybe see where that would go.
Yeah. So now you've done you did all the Munros. You've done your 282. When was it you finished that?
2018.
2018.
Yeah. So I had the target of finishing by the time I was 30.
Right.
So I was 30 in January and I finished in October. So I finished on Ben Chonsey.
Right.
Got 34 people up a hill in like, I think it wasn't named Storm at that point, and it rained from the moment we left here in Newtonmore all the way down, and it just got more and more wet. And I remember thinking, like, people were like, why do you do this? And I was like, this is literally the worst weather I've ever had on the hill, and I'm taking 30 people up, including like people like my dad and stuff. And I was like, you know, he's in the south of England in Suffolk, and he's been up like maybe a 10-meter lump, and he's thinking, what are you doing like up here? So, but like, yeah, it was. That's when I finished, and I thought, yeah, okay, I definitely need to go back and do Ben Chonsey because I didn't get a great day for it.
Yeah. I think that's the most Scottish thing ever. Finishing your round with the Munros in a horrific storm.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not the only one. My mate he finished in Blavin. Yeah. Similar situation. Like you expect like this, you know, amazing day out, and it just rained the whole time. And it's just it's typical, but. You can't. It's one of these things. Like if you plan it, then it's obviously going to rain. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like every time you make plans, it's going to rain.
It's the beauty of living here because, like, most days I go out, I get good weather because I can just choose.
Yeah.
If it's raining, then
you're pretty lucky where you are. So how far? So like you said, it was you started just walking up hills and it kind of snowballed from there. How far did you manage to get through the 282 before it became the target? Like, right, I just need to do this.
I think after you're like past 50, it's like once you get to 50, it's like, oh yeah, I've done 50, and that's like half a century. Like as soon as you know that, it's like once you're past 100, it's definitely like your pastime.
Yeah.
So yeah, 50 was kind of like up until then it was like, I do a few hills, and it's a bit like of a joke, but actually secretly, like once you pass 50, it's like, right, okay, what's the next one? And you spend a lot of time looking at maps. And that's when it kind of got a bit more kind of addictive in that sense, I'd say.
Yeah.
And, you know, once you start ticking off the kind of really difficult ones, I'd say, once you start kind of going past Anchalach and the Anahiach, I suppose you're kind of like, okay, I'm pretty good at this, and I can do them all.
Once you've done like the technical ones, like the scrambly ones, the ones that are a bit more rolly, are just easy ticks for a day, I suppose.
Yeah, it's trying to make them more interesting. Maybe using different modes of transport, bothies, and I think if you keep it fresh, any hill's good on a good day, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's just finding that good day. Or like my father-in-law ski tours, and he dragged me up a few and totally put me off it because it was horrific like conditions, and it was really difficult skiing. And I thought, why did you do this? But then I got a good day on I think it was the Glen Shee Hills.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, this is quite a good way of doing them. So it's like, I counted that as my Munro round because you're still going up them, albeit on skis.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's just, if you keep it, if you do like a lot of different stuff, then that's good. Yeah. I mean, people are cycling up Munros and all that.
I know.
So I don't know if it really counts because you've got e-bikes and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I did use an e-bike recently. But anyway,
I'm not sure you can take the tip for doing a Munro if you don't have to walk back down.
Okay.
That's going to be a controversial one right there.
Yeah.
If we've never had any comments on any of these before, we'd definitely get comments for that.
You're gonna have to get a skeeter on or person who bikes them.
Yeah, that's it. Anyone that's listening, if you've skied off the top of Monroe or biked off the top of Monroe, I'm calling you out. You've not done it. You need to walk down to get the tick.
Okay, I need to redo them then.
Man, that's so elitist of me.
I know.
So you've mentioned you're on your Trig tick list then.
Mm-hmm.
Is this one you've come up with yourself, or is this one you can heard of?
Well, yeah. So there's no, as far as I'm aware, and I kind of spend a lot of time social media and whatnot. So I don't know anyone who's done like a designated tick list of the Trigs. Obviously, anyone who's done the full kind of sweep of Monroe's, Corbett's, Graham's will have done this.
Yeah.
But as a kind of just to do the Trig points.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing at the moment because I kind of finished. I finished Monroe's in October. Then by November, I'd done Ben Leddy.
Right. Yeah.
That's got a Trig point. So I was like, oh, Trig points. There's a few of those. And then I kind of went on a website which says what, like it breaks it down to kind of Trig points in Monroe's, Corbett's, Graham's, and all sorts.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh right, okay. So I totaled them all up, and it was like 185 Trig points.
185.
185 on the Monroe's, Corbett's, and Graham's. And I thought, oh, that's different.
Yeah.
So instead of doing the Corbett's, which is another like 220 list, I'm like, yeah, I could do that, but I'd rather mix it up a bit maybe.
Yeah.
And now I got a dog in last February or April, before lockdown anyway. So once he was able to walk, I was like, oh, I could walk up Graham's with him, and it wouldn't be. He's done Monroe's as well now, but and he'll be fine on them. But I thought, oh yeah, if I don't fancy like a 9-hour slog, then I just fancy like today was a 4 and a bit hour, and it's great because you get the kind of hill fix, but you don't have to feel totally ended at the end.
Totally wasted at the end of the day.
So I thought that's a really fun thing to do. So I've just crack on with them, and I'm about 60 in, I think, maybe a bit more.
Nice. So about a third of the way in.
Yeah, so cool. I thought I said I'll do them over 10 years. Like I'll space them out because I want to enjoy them. And that was like, So I was like, oh, okay, so about 30, 40 a year. So okay, right, that's however many. It's not going to be. I think I'll be pretty quick through them, hopefully. Yeah. But again, maybe not. Life might dictate like lockdowns and stuff.
Oh God, don't.
Let's hope not.
Any more lockdowns and I'm stuck in Glasgow, man. I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
I think people are definitely relocating up here, like into the hills. Have said, right, okay, let's try and find a way of coming up here. And
I am eagle-eyed looking for any way to get out of the city right now.
Okay,
absolutely. So for obviously, I'm aware that a lot of our listeners aren't hill walkers. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are international. In fact, this is a completely international podcast now. Yep. We've got listeners all over the world. So, to our thousands of followers, international followers, explain to me what a trig point is.
Right. I'm not going to do well here because I'm not 100% sure what they are. So they're like obviously a concrete plinth that the Victorians, I think, used to measure high points in the geographical area. Right. So as far as I'm aware, they kind of work off each other and they work on like height. Yeah. So they just that's as far as I'm aware. But like some are smashed, some aren't there, some have are like totally in perfect condition. Like today's one was just it looked like it'd just been built yesterday. They're just ways of marking height. Yeah. But what they were used for and this is the whole thing. It's like you learn as you go. Yeah, totally. So probably by then I'll be able to give you a doctorate in like what these things do. But I think, I really like them because they like, obviously it's like you could go up today's hill and it would just be a bit of a lump. But actually, when you get there, it's like
there's a thing.
There's a thing, and you kind of. I put my dog on it.
It's like having a trophy.
Yeah, it's like a wee reward. So, and they've all got unique numbers, so it's easy enough to like take a photograph of that. And I didn't do that for the Monroe's, so you take a photograph of there's a clasp, and then there's like I take a vertical shot looking down at it, And do you get different types of rock type? You get different like concrete.
Yeah.
It's quite an interesting little marker.
So there was 185
185
of them, and you're taking a photo of the top of everyone with the number. I mean, there's your next 15 years of calendars ticked right there.
Yeah, for sure. No.
Everyone's going to be sick of Trig point calendars after this.
Yeah, no. I try and get like a scenic shot. These are just like the sad person in me that's like the tick list person in me that kind of makes sure I've got pictures of it.
Well, if you haven't got the Insta shot, it didn't happen, did it?
No, exactly.
Of course.
For sure, no. I'm trying to refrain from too much trig point like activity on that because people just think I've got no life. For sure. But no, I'm pretty sure there's someone that could tell you a much better definition.
It's all right. I'll go home and do some research, and I'll like beep plug the details in here for
an actual definition of.
What are trig points? Trig points were the original way of mapping the country. The first trig points in the UK were put in 1935, so not the Victorians. Oops. You'll come across them on top of hills as concrete or stone blocks with a brass plate with 3 arms on them. There's trig points on low-lying areas, some of them only a few metres above sea level, and some of them up on top of Munros. When all the trig points were in place, it was possible on a clear day to see at least 2 other trig points from the one station. Careful measurements between the angles of the line of sight and other trig points were used to measure the distance and the height between each other, and this is how they accurately mapped the entire country. For an actual definition of what a trig point
I have had the question and not answered it, and there's a massive book about like what they're used for, and I know that like one of them up in Glen Affric, Mam Sul, has got a really significant affinity with like the OS. It's all to do with OS.
Yeah.
Back in the day, obviously, you didn't have like awesome machines that would tell you exactly within a square centimetre of how high you are.
Yeah.
So these things were used to give you a rough estimate.
Yeah.
And the really annoying thing is that like the saddle has got a trig point on it, but it's not the summit, so it's not a trig point. Like Larvin, trig point at the summit. No, so they do play tricks on you.
Yeah.
And you do have to kind of work to kind of find a suitable day out.
Yeah. Because I've found it funny. Like I heard someone say it was all the trig points are on the hills over. Was it 2,000? Yeah. 2,000 feet.
No, because I think there's like humps and all sorts with. Like,
but like they're not on all of the Munros.
No.
So it's like, what? How did they decide what hills to put trig points on?
What I was going back to is like line of sight and like the high point versus like all this kind of weird geometric, really clever stuff that I'm not aware of why they're there.
They were rather clever, the old Victorians.
I think so. Yeah. Well, I mean, they mapped like Scotland, so.
Yeah.
Back before, when people were just living in black houses and all that, and hills weren't meant for going up. Just looking at.
Good effort, guys. Mad respect for Victorians there. I like it.
Yeah.
I like this one. I like this trig point idea because, like I said, like
I've not copyrighted it yet.
I would do that before this goes out.
No. I've got. I'm like that. The secret I'm actually keeping is I'm going to write a book.
Right. Cool.
I'm not really, but maybe.
You said it now.
Yeah.
It's out.
I think only now. I would read it. Me and maybe my mum would as well. But I think that's about it. I don't think it'd be.
I think you'd be surprised. There's a lot of hill walking books out there that the hill walkers in Scotland just eat up.
I wait for like any kind of literature on Scottish. Not just hill walking, like mountaineering. Kind of one of my favourite ones is Sandy Allen. In Some Lost Place. That's a great book.
That's sitting down there, is
it? Yeah. It's just fantastic. Yeah. And that's local lad. He's in Newtonmore himself.
I like this one because, like I said, like I found some of the Munros so boring. I don't think I'm ever going to get to the stage. Even once I've done 50 of them, I'm not going to get to the stage of going, right, I need to do them all. But the trig points, like they're on some really cool hills actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've always like because I never know where the trig points are either, and I've
No.
always popped out onto top of random hills and been like, oh,
Yeah,
trig point here. I wasn't expecting that.
No, for sure.
Yeah. There's some really cool hills with them on.
Yeah.
I like this one. So, it's big question time.
Yeah.
Big question time. It's one thing that it's the thing that most intrigued me about doing this interview was you mentioned that you've started doing a bit of climbing.
Yeah.
And obviously you're hill walker. A lot of hill walkers do a little bit of climbing just to do like the in pin.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of where they start with.
Yeah.
But you have not done this in the normal way.
No.
In any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So, like, I was thinking about this compared to who I usually speak to on this podcast. This podcast is primarily a climbing podcast, even though now I will have had 2 hill walkers in a row.
Sure.
Climbing podcast. So a lot of the people that I speak to, they do Munros, they do hill walking and stuff, but they've started climbing, started either indoors or ventured outdoors, and then gone, oh, those routes up in the mountains are really cool, and then discovered, actually just walking up mountains is pretty cool in itself. So they've kind of gone through this natural progression. Or you get the people that are hill walkers who, like I said, do a little bit of climbing just so they feel a bit more confident on some of the scrambly ones, like the in-pin and stuff. But I have never heard of a hill walker that has decided to start climbing and has jumped immediately into winter climbing.
Okay.
I've never.
It's no.
You've skipped a huge section of learning there. It's interesting. I don't know. How have you found that transition?
Difficult. Yeah, I'm starting to realise what like a nut is and a cam. I'm like, these things didn't really enter my vocabulary before now, and now I'm like, okay, right. And it's like I never really had an interest in climbing. I'm a big chap, and I found it too athletic. Like I was like, why do people do this? It's like really uncomfortable. And so the in-pin I actually didn't struggle with. I was quite happy on that. My mate Andy, he took me over most of the difficult stuff in terms of Munros, and we had a great time. But equally, I found myself struggling with vertigo and kind of being in these really exposed places. And I thought, right, okay, I need to kind of work on that myself, so it's not more enjoyable, and I can go out with people like Andy and my mates and not detract from their day out because they're climbers, through and through. Mechanic was a bit of a different matter because I just I think adrenaline wise it dropped and I felt really kind of P-Wally on that one. But I kind of went from scrambling and never really had an interest in climbing, but I really love winter kind of stuff. Winter walking especially. But then, especially this winter, started doing kind of some really interesting routes and more mountaineering climbing. I've not gone from like hill walking to grade 5 winter. It's not like it's not like I'm gifted in that way
yet.
It's all grade 1, 2, and 3. It's all kind of your entry level stuff. But equally, I suppose, like from a hill walking point of view, it's like that is possible. Curve Ridge is an awesome route in summer, but it's a lot better in winter. And so there is a bit of discipline with maybe getting a guide and feeling comfortable in that stuff and learning. If you've got friends, then it's a bit unfair, I think, maybe to jump straight into the winter stuff. I'm a bit clueless, I suppose, as well in terms of like placing gear. So I'm seconding. I'm not leading at any grade yet. I suppose grade 1 winter, gullies and stuff. But it's not. I'm not placed in my first bit of gear yet. But I'm working towards that, and I think I'll probably go out in summer this year and do some severe kind of not severe. That's the wrong word. Some more scrambling, but using gear. Just so if I do stuff next winter, then it'll be a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, a bit more fresh in mind.
Yeah.
But the whole learning to climb, and especially trad climb, learning how to place gear and how to protect yourself, and that is a long, slow process.
Yeah.
Like it is. It takes a long time to get properly comfortable that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's really easy to throw nuts in cracks, but it's hard. It's a little bit harder to tell that is a good nut. Just because it stops doesn't mean it's good.
Especially if it's got to catch me, all 17 stone or whatever I am. I don't know if this stuff is going to hold, but
it's rated to hold. It'll hold. Don't worry about that.
I mean, taking it out is hard enough than putting it in. I think because sometimes, and that's the I've only done. I think the most kind of maybe technical thing is hidden chimney in the Schnecter.
Yeah.
And that is it was fine. So I think more the merrier, and hopefully. This winter is particularly good, and hopefully next winter's equally as good.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Next winter I can actually go out and play.
Yeah, but then there'll be so many people up there.
Sorry, I'll come and ruin your fun.
No, it's great. It's like,
I had no idea how that transition would be for you. I found sometimes because I coach a lot of kids, and they're clueless to climbing when you first start coaching them. So they come in with no expectations, completely blank slate. They kind of just throw themselves into it and figure it out and their bodies aren't stubborn to working with the movement. So I didn't know if, coming from just straight hill walking straight into, a little bit of scrambling and then straight into winter climbing, whether you go in with no expectations and kind of work quite well with it, this is a different form of going up a hill, or whether getting the movement of climbing dialed would be a bit more of a challenge.
Interestingly, I've always, when I looked at winter climbing in that kind of, not like extreme winter climbing, like Dave McLeod going up a X11 or whatever, but it's like methodically going up a gully. I thought, right, okay, that makes sense. You got crampons, you don't have to kind of hold onto a bit of rock. It's all pretty kind of, you can take your time, and that's what it was like. Doing these routes. It's very methodical, and you're not kind of knackering yourself out, thankfully. And you don't need a lot of upper body in the routes that I've done to date. You don't need like a lot of upper body strength, But then I'm told that you're not meant to use your hands much in climbing anyway. You're meant to use your feet.
It's all like,
so I've obviously been climbing wrong in the summer, and that threw me off totally.
I think everybody that starts climbing, like as an adult, has the exact same issue of like, climbing's all upper body.
Yeah, exactly.
This is really hard. I don't like it. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So, is this something you're gonna do a bit more summer stuff now? Are you going to dial it back from hardcore winter stuff to doing a bit more summer stuff and kind of get used to it? Or
I'm probably going to do some scrambling this year. Hopefully get to the Coolin and do a bit more kind of scrambling for sure, and maybe just practice putting gear in so I'm kind of aware if I need to, if I want to start leading kind of grade 2s. I'm not going to go full throttle, I don't think, into it.
Yeah.
And equally, like the people I know are kind of up a bit further in terms of skill and ability. So, the whole winter stuff is geared towards being able to join them for grade 2s and 3s. Yeah. So it opens my kind of seasons up a bit longer.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what it's geared to. So I'm not going to be. I don't think if I can carry on doing grade 3s and maybe touch a grade 4, I think that'll be me happy.
Yeah.
Everything 5 and above looks a bit too intense.
It's quite steep for 5.
Yeah,
5 are quite steep. Yeah. Like you said, you're going to take it easy kind of this year, do a little bit more and learn how to place gear and stuff like that. It's a long, slow process. It's definitely not something to be rushed.
No.
I know a lot of people that have kind of rushed into it, and it's kind of scary because going out into the mountains and doing winter routes is a pretty risky thing, even on the best of days.
Yeah. For sure.
So taking it easy and learning your trade before you start pushing is definitely a good thing. And like you said, like if you can get a bit more comfortable placing gear and just moving on rock as well as on snow, like once you've kind of opened yourself up to that grade 2, grade 3, even up to grade 4, man, that's a lifetime's worth of climbing right there.
For sure.
Like, that's it. That's all you need to do. You know, some of the best routes in the country are within that bracket. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't see it like, I'm missing out in the summer, like not climbing, because I can do my hill walking and I can do the kind of really fun scrambling stuff. But then gearing myself towards the winter, it's like I've learned a lot this winter, because I went out with a few people that I know, and really high caliber climbers, and just the movement on these routes and pitching and all that kind of stuff. And I thought I'd be really bad at it, like belaying and all that kind of new stuff to me. But it's actually, once you've done a few times with a very competent person, I think it's kind of in the realms of hill walkers stay hill walking and never really touch that kind of bit beyond. Whereas I think it's totally accessible. Oh, totally. It's just you've got to kind of want to do it and maybe put yourself in some uncomfortable positions. But equally, it's a lot more safe because you've got a rope attached to you instead of maybe like the Anarchier. There's a few bits on that, and I was like, yeah, if I fall, I'm going to fall a long way. Oh, yeah. And you don't have a rope, and you're like, okay, this is pretty risky. Whereas on a winter route, you can be like, 500 meters up, and it's vertical and all that kind of stuff. But actually, you're pretty safe in that sense. Yeah, for sure. As long as there's not an avalanche, which would scupper you. Yeah, well, yeah, it's always like it's a misconception that I think a lot of people, in fact, most people have when they're kind of going through the whole hill walking, try a bit of scrambling. I'm not going to go to touch climbing because that's really dangerous. And actually, scrambling, some of the scramble routes out there are way more dangerous. In fact, most of the scramble routes out there are way more dangerous than trying climbing. You can climb things that are technically harder than any scramble, but you've got a rope on and there's loads of protection on them. They're super, super safe. So there's a couple of scrambles that I've done and I'm just like, man, why am I here? Why have I got a rope on? I'm a climber. I work with ropes. I don't do this solo. My name's not Alex Arnold. No, for sure. No. And I thought once I got into winter stuff, it would be terrible, and because I didn't enjoy the exposure. But you're almost like, because you're pitching, you're almost like locked into these like little boxes, and you don't need to consider what you've done already. So even when you're topping out, I thought this could go really wrong. Like just getting scared and looking down and going, oh right, okay, that's not good. But like if you're just kind of focused on what's in front of you, you get to the top and it's all great, and it's much more of an adrenaline hit than for sure. Maybe getting to the top of. Do you find it makes it a little bit more not accessible? Is maybe not the right word here, but easier having a winter route done as pitches than walking up a hill in winter, because the goals that you're aiming towards are just that little bit closer. Like, if you walk up a hill in winter, you can see the summit way up there. It's like, oh no, that's freaking miles away. Whereas, you do a short pitch, it's maybe 20 meters. I can see my mate on the belay. Like, that's not that far. I can get there. That's cool. For sure. No, like, interestingly, like, I never look at a mountain in the sense of like, I've got to get to the summit and I can see it, like, because then you think it's a huge thing. You can't do it because you're knackered already. So if you break it down into like, getting up to say Bialik, and then you can just go up there. So if I see mountains in that same kind of always break it down into pitches, because otherwise, like if I'm thinking I've got to do 30 clicks around the Fisher Field, and I've just left Curry Hall, and I'm like, this isn't good. I don't know many people that would go right, okay. Looking at image and like can't even see it from there because it's so far away. I've always kind of looked at hill walking in that same kind of like pitching almost. And then unfortunately as well, like I don't know if in climbing you have the same issues, but like not being able to see maybe your partner and then like almost preempting what they're doing, because
in winter, like once you don't know if they've finished the pitch, and then sometimes it might be too windy, and you've got to kind of like almost communicate by tugging,
feeling the rope.
Yes, yeah, that's pretty sketchy because I think once or twice I was climbing when I shouldn't have been, and you do learn quickly like that's
it's a really difficult one to take people, even people that are climbers, to take them into mountain scenarios where you can't hear your belayer, you can't see your belayer. They're way up on a pitch somewhere, and the rope pulls tight on you.
Yeah,
You've got no more rope to give out in the belay device. You just pull tight on your knot, and like that's a difficult one to convince people that actually it's okay to start climbing.
Yeah.
That's okay because you've got bits of protection in between you.
Yeah.
And your belayer might be, they might have already put you on belay and are ready for you to come up, and that's what they're wanting.
Yeah.
Or they might be 5 feet from the belay ledge and just need that little bit extra slack to get there.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky one. And I've come across that situation myself a bunch of times where it's just like the rope's tight. Whew. I hope they're ready.
Because I'm going. Yeah, no, it's a different art form. It's like
totally.
And I'm learning that quickly enough. But I went out maybe 5 or 6 times with high caliber guides, and then I met up with my mate once lockdown finished. He climbs a grade 4. At that point, I hadn't done a grade 3. We were meant to do Jacob's Edge. We ended up doing Hidden Chimney. We both survived. I had a great day out with my mate, and that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
Like, and the guys, it's been great kind of getting that high caliber tuition without feeling like my mates wouldn't do that because I wasn't in the right headspace. It's not the right situation, whereas if a professional, you're going out with someone, and it is a professional atmosphere. So it's been great kind of having that. And I don't think I'd have had that opportunity because, these people are booked up. In the winter, like, you got people coming up from England and doing big routes on the Ben, and it's just never accessible. So this one that's been accessible, and I'm really lucky.
No, that's been excellent, actually. Yeah, I hadn't considered that. All the locals that are coming into the game, finding that all of the guides out there are booked up a year in advance must be really hard.
Yeah.
This year's been slightly different. I hadn't actually considered that.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a... Yeah, it's difficult because, they've obviously got their kind of regular people and people that have been looking forward to it for years, and then all of a sudden, it's like, no, can't come.
Yeah.
And then, within guidance and within rules, we're doing stuff. And, it's great because, you're getting that kind of really high caliber tuition with people that, would do it day in and day out, but maybe, for whatever reason. And it is literally like we've had such a good winter here. Not wanting to rub it in. The band's been in some really good condition. Did ledge route in winter, which was awesome. Got an idyllic day. And then, Curve Ridge, as I said. And then, Ben Ahern, East Ridge. And then some stuff in, like, more kind of climbing, like the Runnel and Spiral Gully in Cairngorms. So, it's been great.
It's cool. This is a really good plug for the professional instructors. Like, it's like climbing and hill walking. They've always historically been the kind of teach yourself. Like it's all come from guys that have gone out and taught themselves. They've made mistakes. They've learned lessons, and they've kind of gone out. And that is still happening today. There's loads of people that are just going out and teaching themselves. But man, you can't put a price really on just getting a professional instructor to take you out for a day and actually show you what you're doing and what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
And how to avoid that, for sure.
Yeah.
It's something that I wish that I'd see a lot more people doing. Like, I know it's quite expensive. It's not cheap to hire an instructor, but you're paying for decades of experience.
Yeah, 100%.
You can't put a price on that kind of thing.
No,
absolutely
for sure.
not.
I mean, sometimes it's uncomfortable in the sense that it is literally tuition, so you kind of want to chat away and have a laugh.
Yeah.
But then it's you kind of it's not in that realm. You have to be focused.
Yeah.
Because as much as they're pretty confident that you got their life in your hands as well.
Yeah.
If they say fell off for whatever reason, they're putting their trust in you as well. So yeah, no, it's pretty good fun, albeit with a bit more kind of risk factor. But yeah, I love it. It's great.
It is really good fun. Isn't it? It is really good fun.
It's pretty good adrenaline rush afterwards.
Yeah.
More so than you might get kind of even just getting to the top of a nice hill. It's really good fun, sense of achievement.
Mm. So, have you been bitten by the winter climbing bug? Is this?
Oh yeah,
totally.
Yeah, I've got my Scottish winter climbs there, and I kind of sit there and go, oh yeah, I could do that, and oh yeah, this is probably too much for me. And what I'm finding though is a serious lesson I've learned is, whereas with road bagging, you're like, okay, that's what I'm going to go and do, and 95% of the time you can do it. It's only if the weather's really, really bad or whatnot. But winter mountaineering is as fickle as it comes. So I'll be talking to someone, oh yeah, we could go and do this, and do you think that would be all right? And it's until you're at the climb, you don't know. Even getting to the climb, you might not be able to because avalanche and whatnot. Yeah, totally. So it's this. You spend all week kind of analysing stuff like weather systems and all sorts. So it's actually to get a climb in, you might only get one in a year. Mm. My mate only got one in a year this year, but I've had maybe 8 or 9. Yeah,
don't rub it in. I've only had one.
I've only had one. But just having the conditions is the conditions dictate what you can and can't do.
Yeah, totally.
A lot more than even climbing or hill walking. It's it's a lot more intense in that sense. And I've not had what I think is a great climb isn't a great climb. It's that was really powdery snow and it wasn't consolidated, and I don't know what all this kind of talk is about prime ice.
It doesn't matter because you had a good day.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. It's I think, oh yeah, that was amazing. It's no, that wasn't amazing. That was really, really sketchy. That's the way.
Blissful ignorance always means.
I think that's probably best.
Yeah, for sure.
But not when you're descending a car. And that's as well. Descending as much a thing as going up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Especially in winter. So I've learned a huge amount in terms of that.
Yeah, blissful ignorance.
That's probably the best way then.
Yeah. While I made a big point about hiring a professional instructor to show you what you do and don't know, maybe it's best that you don't know what you don't know.
Well, that's part of it as well. Just put all the trust in them.
And
unfortunately, that's what I was doing with my mates who I didn't have the skill set to be doing that, and then they didn't understand. And it's as much reading a person. The guides that I've been with, reading a person. I had a massive. I tried to do the Falcon Ridge in winter, first kind of winter route, and I kind of got halfway into it and 2/3 into it, and I hadn't eaten all day, and I just kind of lost my groove and kind of got a bit dizzy.
You need a lot of calories for a winter day.
Yeah,
especially
I didn't realise.
Yeah.
So and she instantly knew that and reacted, and whereas with a friend, you kind of it's not the same situation, and their people management skills, even though they don't say it to your face, they obviously know they're reading you constantly, and there's as much that you're unaware of than maybe just going up a hill or climb.
For sure. So what's plans now then?
So plans obviously crack on with trig points, which is quite nice that I'm not having to kind of analyse forecasts day in day out and read various I spend a lot of time on UKC now, and it's oh, they've done that route, right, maybe I can go and do it. Oh no, that's way above my pay scale. So and I've also signed up for my Summer ML.
Oh, cool.
So I'm doing that down in Wales.
Excellent.
So that's in Snowdonia. So I thought I'd go to a different part of the country. I did the Welsh 3000s in a day. 4 years ago. So I want to go back and kind of maybe spend a bit more time there.
Awesome.
So I do the summer ML just for more like learning to read a map, which I've not really honed my total skills.
How can you have done all 282 Monroes?
I've got a really good, like geographic awareness of like where I've come and where I can go, and I made a few issues, but no, I can read a map, but just not. I can't. Until this winter, I wasn't counting steps or anything.
Yeah.
All that kind of micro nav, and so I thought it'd be a good way to do that. And after that was just hopefully get a kind of 5-month winter like we did this year, and
fingers crossed.
Maybe try a few more climby routes than maybe. I love the long ridges. Like I want to do Tower Ridge, but I wanted to do it in summer first. Make sure I could. Kind of, that I don't put myself in an awkward position. Yeah, discovering a lot more about like Ben Nevis and Craig Meggie, than just going up the usual routes. It's such a massive face that there's hundreds of ways up it. And it's quite fun exploring that way. So that's me.
You said you were looking at UKC. There's a tick list on UKC that I'm half kind of looking at, and it's something like the greatest ridge lines in Scotland or something like that. I can't remember the exact name of it, but man, it is. It just looks incredible. Some of the routes on that list are amazing. So if you're looking for really cool, long, scrambly ridges for summer stuff, that's a good one to look at for sure.
Yeah, definitely check that one out. I mean, the winter. I think it's Winter with One Ice Axe. That's the book that kind of got me thinking about more winter stuff. But actually, some of the routes in that, I'd want 2 ice axes. Yeah. Like we did Rayburn's Gully, my mates and I, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and a really nice, beautiful day. And one guy kind of shot past us with 1 ice axe, and he topped out. And then we met up with him halfway back, and he was like, "I really wanted 2 ice axes." So it's a bit like, 1 ice axe, but actually most of those routes you'd probably have 2.
Yeah.
So there's like Leith Traverse, which there's a bucket list traverse in winter, for sure. So that's what this is all kind of, and it's all geared towards that. I never thought I'd do kind of grade 3s. I'd always thought I'd just do grade 1 winter, grade 2 winter, in around that realm. Yeah. But it's just as fun doing kind of climbs as such.
Oh, for sure. So for anyone listening that's hasn't done any hills yet, little bit of a hill walker, maybe done some stuff down in the Pentlands and looking to get in on some bigger stuff, or some climbers that actually just need to walk up a hill. Give us a recommendation.
Oh, okay. Blavan or Penalgan, I'd say. Blavan by the usual route then, if it's not like Black Glass. For sure. Or, here's a different one. The Essians, I did in winter. Yeah. Without crampons. Found out that I needed crampons about halfway up. That was another thing about, learning. It's like, okay, I had an ice axe, but I didn't have crampons, and you need crampons. So the Essians in winter was astoundingly good, because you get like awesome view of the Grey Curries and Loch Arbor. So that's maybe a bit of a different one that maybe people don't think about, because obviously Blavan and Tardin, it's like up there, on top of people's lists. But Essians, I think, definitely for scenic value is very good.
Nice.
For sure.
Awesome. I think that's a pretty good recommendation. Cool. Thank you very much for sitting down with me.
No worries.
I've kind of battered through all the questions I had anyway.
Nice one.
Yeah.
This isn't like an interview, like a work interview where you say, "Now, do you have any questions?"
Yeah, have you got any questions for me? I'll let you know when you get the job.
Okay, nice one, thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Dan, for sitting down with me. That was awesome. Definitely a different vibe and a different flavour of episode than what we're used to here. But really interesting hearing from someone who's got into climbing, but in a very, very different way from what most people get into. And listening to where he's found the learning points that he needs to go away and work on. And I think those lessons are something that we can all take as well. So, yes, like Dan will be doing when we get out there and we are going back climbing, do your buddy checks.